All right, folks, we are here for another crossover Thursday edition of the Locked On Titans and the Locked On Jags podcast. One of my favorite crossovers. I'm willing to say my favorite crossover every year. It's so nice we get to do it twice. I am the host of Locked On Titans, Tyler Rowland, here with Tony Wiggins, host of Locked On Jaguars. We're going to break down this matchup and not only talk about this game, but talk a little bit about the future of these teams as well. So before we get into that, do want to let you guys know that this show is presented by Stat Hero. Stat Hero is a first of its kind daily fantasy sports platform where it's you against the house in a head-to-head fantasy matchup. Winner takes all. Sign up for free right now at stathero.com/locked on and use the promo code locked on. That's one word, locked on, for a 100% deposit match. And as always, thank you for making the Locked On Titans and the Locked On Jaguars podcast your first listen every day. If you're just checking out the shows for the first time ever, make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you do stream. Check out Locked On Jaguars YouTube, check out Locked On Titans YouTube, and just know, wherever you find the podcast, you will find them for free. No
Absolutely.
paywall here at the Locked On Podcast Network. So, Tony, I know that the season isn't going great for the Jags. Right now, the Titans are in one of the worst parts of their season as well, so maybe some negative feelings all around. But how are things generally going right now for the Jaguars?
Terrible, and you hit it dead on the head. It's not going good at all, brother. But for me, I said this before, T. It'll actually be Urban Meyer's reign here will either be wonderful because the team will win, or it'll be spectacular from a media perspective because they're going to stink. And if that happens, I'm going to do my job and we're going to have fun regardless. And that's what's going on right now. Now, it's no fun to do these repetitive podcasts every day where you're a grief counselor. But unfortunately for the Jaguar fans, I'm kind of good at that. And because we've been suffering so much as a franchise. So, it's bad, man. And it might be, and I'm being honest, I'm being deadly honest, it might be about as bad as it's ever been here, believe it or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand because it doesn't look like there's a lot of hope. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the future, but just for the right now, my question for you, are there players that you think have been playing well recently that can give fans a little bit of hope? Hey, this guy is somebody who, when we do start winning, this guy will be around.
Trevor, and it doesn't show up statistically, but
Right.
Trevor Lawrence, in my opinion, has really braved through a lot of things, and he has not stopped competing. He does need a really good offseason, though, from a mechanical perspective, and to kind of wash this stink off of him that's happened this year because of the lack of separation with the wideouts and because of, sometimes things break down, and then all of the miscommunication. Just today, he had to answer questions about James Robinson, and he said James Robinson is one of our better players. There's been a controversy all week about him not getting the ball enough, and Trevor said we've addressed it. And the thing is you have your rookie quarterback addressing team issues as if he's a manager. And while that is not ideal, it does show you his maturity level. And but the fact is he needs to be developing. He doesn't need to be sitting around here having press conferences talking about personnel decisions, and he's 21, 22 years old. But that's the dysfunction that Jacksonville is right now. And there's no one to blame but Urban Meyer. He needs to take full responsibility for it.
Yeah, and I'm going to give, like I said, like you said, don't want to make you a grief counselor here, but I do think it's important for Titans fans to get an idea of what's going on in Jacksonville. I know they want that information, but speaking of the Titans, as I kind of mentioned, it's kind of tough in Tennessee right now as well. I know they sit at 8-4, and I don't mean to maybe disrespect the Jaguars fans listening and say, oh no, the Titans, it's so bad, they're 8-4, but coming off 2 losses, one of those to a team in the Houston Texans, who I cannot believe that they lost that game. It's still more than the Jets game. Losing to that Texans team is just unacceptable, quite frankly. And the Titans have had 9 turnovers in the last 2 games. That you just can't win doing that. And if they lose this game to Jacksonville, I think it's totally fair for Titans fans to hit the panic button and wonder, really truly wonder, if the Titans will ever get back to playing the football that they were playing in the middle of the season. Now, obviously, a lot of that has to do with health. The Titans have a historic number of injuries. They've had the most players on their active roster of any team in NFL history, and we're only through 13 weeks now, and one of them was a bye. So 12 games for the Titans. They've already used 86 total players, a record. You can look at that all you want, for sure, understandable. But even with the injuries, the Titans should not have lost to the Jets or the Texans. So
They shouldn't have.
right, they're I call them the two-faced Titans. They
Right.
can beat the best team in the NFL any given Sunday, or lose to the worst team in the NFL, and that rule applies this weekend. So when I had my crossover with John and Cody for the Texans, I gave Texans fans a little bit of optimism about their ability to win that game. I got to give that same optimism to the Jaguars. The Titans should win this game, but they have shown that they have the ability to let down, especially if they don't fix the turnover issues. But obviously, we're going to talk more about these things in the following segments coming up. Before we get into them, do want to tell you a little bit more about the title sponsor of today's show, Stat Hero. Stat Hero is a daily fantasy sports matchup that pits you against the house. You're not going to be out there playing against, random experts, thousands of unknown players. Stat Hero puts you in control of your fate. And you know that season-long traditional fantasy sports are a long-term losing proposition. So, Stat Hero is the first of its kind daily fantasy sports platform. The crazy part about it is Stat Hero is going to show you their lineup before you play, and you get to handpick the team that you want to face one-on-one, and you set the stakes as well. You decide how much you're going to play for, and Stat Hero has no choice but to take it, because they're daring you to beat them again. Stat Hero is head-to-head, one-on-one daily fantasy sports, which is exactly the way that it should be. So sign up for free right now at stathero.com/lockedon and use the promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% deposit match. That's stathero.com/lockedon. Use that promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% match. Once again, stathero.com/lockedon, promo code LOCKEDON. Terms and conditions may apply. All right, well, Tony, we're going to get into, breaking down this matchup. Before I kind of ask about some future topics, I just want to say this. What is your read on Jacksonville having an ability to win this game? And if they were to win the game, how do you think that would play out?
Somebody needs to make sure that Jeffrey Simmons does not get on the bus on the way to the stadium. That's one way that they can win, because he is just a game plan wrecker. I really, really love him as a football player and everything that he stands for. I really do think that the Jaguars just have to have a short memory, and that's hard to do when you have 10 losses on a season. But they have to just find some pride and find a reason to understand that this is the Tennessee Titans. This is your rival. They don't like you, and stranger things have happened before. Then, one of these teams winning when they're not supposed to. So they have to, first and foremost, the defense has played well in spots, and one of the things that they've been able to do is harass the other team's quarterback. And I think without the healthy receivers and without Derrick Henry, they can take a beeline and they can really, really focus in on Ryan Tannehill. And in doing that, kind of knock him off of his square a little bit, because what makes him dangerous is when he has all of those weapons and then he uses his legs. Well, he doesn't have his weapons now. So now you have to make sure. I would make him play from inside the box and run some sort of gap and hole where you do want to get a pass rush, but you don't want to extend too far past him and allow him to get into those running lanes and create situations where he extends drives. They have to get off the field on third down, and they have to make sure that they don't do dumb, boneheaded penalties, which they've been doing for weeks now. They've been getting a lot of penalties when on third down, like they get a dead ball penalty after they make a stop on third down. Tyler, is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Man. And they've done, one guy smacked they had pinned the team back, gotten a sack on third and long, got the team pinned back within like the 7 or 8 yard line. And allowed themselves to be baited into a shoving match where the opponent's helmet comes off and the Jaguars player slapped the dude right in front of the referee.
It was Rashawn Jenkins, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there like, you got to be kidding me. You just flip field position against the 49ers. You have them pinned back. And I'm going to tell you the significance of that. San Francisco started that game, and they went on a 20-play, 13-minute, 5-second drive. The Jaguars kicked off. They pinned them inside the 10-yard line because of the dude bobbled the kickoff.
Right.
They go 13 minutes on the opening drive. The Jaguars get the ball back after the 49ers go up 3-0. This was a couple of weeks ago. The Jaguars go 3 and out after being on the field for 13 minutes. They go 3 and out. The 49ers hold the ball for like 7 or 8 minutes again. All right. So now this is how this game is going. You finally get them off the field after being skull drugged and working like you picking onions in the field all day. And you then slap a dude after you so tired that you lost your train of thought.
Right.
Which you didn't realize something. Guess what? Now you got to have your butt back on the field.
Yeah.
And guess what happened? They drove and they flipped the field again. That's the problem. They have no situational awareness when it comes to they're really doing it to themselves, and they have to stop. They got punt formation in one game, and the punter wasn't on the field.
Oh man, see, a lot of the stuff that you're talking about is coaching.
No, look, they're lined up. The guy's back waiting for the punt. They're lined up. Referee blew the whistle. Everybody's looking around, and then all of a sudden you see Logan Cook, the punter, running on the field, putting his head. It is the water boyiest stuff I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, well, that kind of leads me into what I wanted to ask about next. And I like we talked about before we, press the record button here, I don't get a lot of time to talk to you until after off-season moves are made. We usually do a little divisional recap in May or June to get ready for the season ahead. But obviously this season, I think the Jaguars have 2 wins now. It's not going to be a playoff year, but what do you think they need to do going forward? What moves do you want them to make, or just what's your general idea of what they need to do going forward to turn this thing around? Because I'm a believer in Trevor Lawrence. I think Josh Allen is one of the best young players in the NFL. So you have a pass rusher and you have a passer, which is a good foundation. But what needs to come next in this offseason for Jacksonville to be a decent football team next year?
I can tell you what they need to do. It's not realistic because I don't think it's going to happen. They need to move on from Urban Meyer. But it's not, they ain't going to do it. I don't think they're going to do it unless it gets worse, or unless it starts to, unless there's something else and we don't know. We can't predict if there's anything else, if something's going to come up.
Yeah, with Urban, you never know.
Some kind of scandal or not answering a question right in the press conference because he's absolutely awful at press conferences. Right. At least, see, in college, when you're the big man on campus, you control the narrative.
In a small town, small. Columbus isn't a small town, but compared to NFL media,
But you're a god in those towns because no one wants to screw up with the college football stuff because that's just the way it is, right?
Right.
So in the NFL, dude, I used to go to press conferences in flip-flops. It's like, I wish I would say something to me because it's like, and it's not being unprofessional. It's just that this is Florida. This is Jacksonville, dude. This is Duval, right? So you're over there and, it's like, whatever, dude, don't even play that stuff with me. And it's almost as if you ever seen a car salesman? You know how used car salesmen are. And I shout out to car salesmen. I love car salesmen because I got a bunch of friends that's car salesmen, right?
Right.
But they got their own way of doing things, right?
For sure.
Ain't nothing like a car salesman trying to sell a car, and he doesn't know that his customer is a car salesman. So you go to buy a car, or you take your daughter to get a car, and you're like I took one of my buddies with me when my daughter went car shopping, and the dude's whipping out all these numbers. So without knowing that my partner was a car salesman, my partner is just cutting him off. Every time he tries to run that BS and run that lie, my partner is just slicing him with a cleaver. Like, that's a lie. Don't tell me this. Boom. He's asking this dude. So finally the dude goes, did you used to sell cars before? He said, no, I've been doing it for 30 years. So you realize that the stuff you say, you can't pull the wool over. Urban didn't realize that at first. And these dudes, these grizzled dudes that don't have nothing to do except sit around here and dissect everything you say, they're holding them to it. And what happens is he'll say it, they'll let him say it, but then you'll see blogs and you'll see podcasts and you'll see tweets and you'll see stuff. And he looks like an idiot half the time. So I wish they pressed him a little bit more. I don't go to the stadium because I'm usually doing something else in the middle of the day. But
Right.
I'm gonna tell you something, man. He does not do good in press conferences, and it absolutely makes it worse when you're 2-10.
And that's part of the job. Part of the job, you got to win football games, but media relations and handling that. I saw something in a press conference this week, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, where it was about James Robinson and his lack of touches, and Urban almost blamed it on the running back coach.
That's what he does.
And and said like, oh, the running back coach is in charge of that or whatever.
It's ridiculous. So it's plausible deniability. So here's what it is.
Right.
He said it today, and he said it on one of his shows. He goes, I stopped micromanaging. And it's almost as if, and this is me inserting this, it's almost as if he had to stop micromanaging so much so he wouldn't burn himself out, because he's known to be kind of maniacal in the way that he, goes about stuff. So in order for him he had to start delegating authority, and so that's what he's kind of putting it on. But the reason why it doesn't work in these situations is because James Robinson is like your best player, right? And someone asks you, why didn't he play more? And you go, I don't know. We'll have to take a look at it, right? And then the next day you come out on a Monday after the game, it's Monday afternoon, and you say, we haven't had a chance to discuss it yet. So now you got people wondering, what the hell you've been doing for the last 36 hours?
Right.
Okay. Did you watch the film? You haven't had a meeting. Other teams, when they're losing, they're watching tape, or they got the coaches there at 5 o'clock in the morning, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. So you haven't done that yet. So then you come out Tuesday, and it seems like you have it thought out. You thought it all out, and your answer is, I don't micromanage that. I leave it up to the coaches. And really, it looks like it's plausible deniability. It's you throwing somebody else under the bus that everybody knows you're going to fire him at the end of the year. So it makes it look like, look, I did my job. I delegated authority because I'm the CEO of this whole thing. But here's what he doesn't understand, and this is why it doesn't fly. You're literally on the sidelines. All you got to do is go down there and say, what's wrong with James?
Right.
That's it.
It's not complicated.
No, dude, it ain't like you're some Ranger battalion on the other side of the mountain, and you don't have contact, and you can't get over here to find out and debrief. It ain't all that serious, bruh. It's like this. Take 5 steps down and say, why ain't he in the game? Yes. He's my best player. It ain't like you, listen, bro. It ain't like you Dallas, right? And CD Lamb's in the game and Cooper's in the game, and now you're like, well, Gallup ain't in there, so I don't care. Or Pollard's in the game and Zeke's taking the blow. It ain't like that. You got James Robinson and then Carlos Hyde.
Right.
What is Carlos doing in the game? It's not that hard, man. To see, he tries to make this seem like it. I almost cursed, by the way. I had to bite my tongue just then, but he tries to make it seem like it's this grand scheme and our process. And brother, you 2-10. If you're doing all that processing, it ain't working.
Right. Yeah. No, you're spot on. And that's why I wanted to make sure I got your take. You got your finger on the pulse of the Jacksonville Jaguars more than just about anybody who you could imagine on the planet. So I had to make sure that I got your take on just where they're at right now, what's going to come in the future. But we're going to move to our last segment. I know you said you had a lot of questions for me. Before we do that, though, I know you got to tell the fine listeners about a few of our sponsors.
That's right. Super Bowl 56 is at SoFi, and it's less than 100 days away and on location. That's right, on location. The official hospitality partner of the NFL is the only place to score a once-in-a-lifetime Super Bowl ticket and experience package. Select your exact seats and choose from elite experiences featuring an exclusive pregame celebration with NFL legends, 5-star LA hotels, and food by the great Wolfgang Puck. I went to his restaurant in Vegas and lost my mind. So he is absolutely fantastic. He's one of those chefs that you see on TV all the time. So make sure you pay attention to that. So visit onlocationexp.com/SB56. I know that's a lot, but you can always rewind this. All right. For more information or search Super Bowl on location. Just search Super Bowl on location. That's on location, EXP sp.com/SB56 or search Super Bowl on location. And if you're trying to make a wager, I know I am, you guys better get on top of it and make sure that you holler at Bet Online because they have you covered for all of your season-long props and odds and the lines that are better than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. So head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code, which is locked on, to receive that bonus. Now, I'm going to say it again. You get a 50% welcome bonus on your first and initial deposit if you use the promo code locked on. You got basketball, you got football, everything's getting heated up in both college and pro. Boxing, UFC, it seems like there's a fight every weekend. Vegas casino games, all of your favorites. So don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all of your favorite sports. BetOnline is where the game starts.
All right. Well, I know that you said you had some questions for me. We're going to wrap up this crossover Thursday. Tony, whenever you are ready, I am in the hot seat, ready to go.
Any buyer's remorse on Julio Jones? Because everybody talked about how banged up he is all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You gave up a second-round pick for him. I thought it was well worth the reach because he's a Hall of Famer. But how do you guys feel right now in Tennessee?
Quite frankly, I feel kind of like I did about the Jadeveon Clowney thing. I think it was a worthy move. You take a shot on somebody to upgrade the talent. Yeah, it's someone who's had some issues with injury, but if you get a healthy version, you're really going to get one of the better players in the NFL at their position. I think, honestly, what it comes down to is Julio Jones healthy for this stretch run? If he gets hurt again and he can't help them in the playoffs, then you have to call it a bad trade. Now, that's a hindsight thing. Of course, we're evaluating after the fact. I'll always say that it was a good trade in the moment. But if Julio Jones were to get hurt again this season, not help the Titans in the stretch run, not help the Titans in the playoffs, then I think it's fair to go back and say it was a bad trade. But at the end of the day, I don't blame John Robinson for making the move. I would have made the move as well. I would rather, if you're going to pay Corey Davis $12.5 million to be hurt and inconsistent, I'd rather pay Julio Jones $12 million, $15 million to be hurt and inconsistent. But at the end of the day, if Julio comes back, he makes some plays down this stretch, the Titans go on a run, get back to playing the football that they were playing in the middle of the season, and he makes some plays in the playoffs, then nobody's going to look back on it and be like, oh, well, he was hurt for most of the year, halfway through. It's not going to matter. If he comes in, he helps the Titans win a playoff game, maybe win 2 playoff games, God forbid, win a Super Bowl.
Right.
I'd be on here crying for an hour afterwards if that were to happen.
And Jaguar fans will be crying too, trust me.
Right. So if Julio could still help the Titans at the end of the year, then I think the trade still, worked out. But at the end of the day, I can't fault John Robinson for taking swings. You need elite talent to win in this league at the highest level. The Titans didn't have it before. They went out and made a play for it. It works out or it doesn't work out, and that's just the way that it goes in the NFL.
No doubt about it. What's the injury? What's the status of, it might be obvious, but I've heard conflicting reports on A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry got any chance to come back this year?
Well, that's the thing. There are conflicting reports on that as well. But here's what I'll say. Adam Schefter from ESPN has basically said the entire time Derrick Henry's out for the season. That's what he always says. But Ian Rappaport from NFL Network has said that there's a likelihood that Derrick Henry could come back for a playoff run if the Titans hold on and make it. What makes me feel confident that it's more towards Ian Rappaport and less towards Adam Schefter is Diana Russini, who works for ESPN with Adam Schefter, Diana Russini is locked in to the Titans.
She's fantastic.
She's so good at her job. She either is super close with John Robinson or Mike Vrabel or both. But either way, she always gets the scoops. She always gets the inside information from the Titans. And she was on an NFL program for ESPN just last week and said that there's optimism right now that Derrick Henry will be back for the playoffs. We're talking about one of the, best athletes we've seen, just generally speaking in America in forever. I mean, the guy's a freak. So if there's anybody who can come back and play and anybody can rebound from that injury, and it wasn't an ACL, it wasn't an Achilles, it's a broken bone in your foot, but DeMarcus Lawrence is almost the same size as Derrick Henry. They're both about 6'4", 6'5", 240, 250. DeMarcus Lawrence broke his foot, same exact injury, on September the 15th. He just returned last week, and that was 11 total weeks. 11 total weeks from when Derrick Henry had his injury is week 1 of the playoffs, the wild card week. So I fully do expect Derrick Henry to return. I think that he's the type of guy who can make it back. But like you said, there have been conflicting reports. But for my money, Derrick Henry will play in another football game this year.
And A.J. Brown, no?
AJ Brown is on IR. He's not eligible to come back until the Titans play on Thursday Night Football against San Francisco. Speaking from my perspective solely, I don't have any medical background. I always say that I'm not a doctor. I'm not in any way. But I would not play AJ in that Thursday Night Football game because of the shortness of it. You give AJ 4 weeks on IR, basically 5 weeks, I guess, with the bye, and you let him get that full 10 days rest until the last 2 games of the season against the Dolphins and against the Texans. That's what I would do, but he hasn't been ruled out for the year, and reports indicate that it's not a season-ending injury, so as long as that is the report out there, I'm choosing to be positive on both. A.J. Brown will be back, Derrick Henry will be back, and quite frankly, if the Titans don't get those guys back, then the season's a wash anyway because they can't win a Super Bowl without those 2 guys.
Mike Vrabel is in the top 25% tier of coaches in the league. I think there's 32 coaches. I think he's one of the top 8 guys in the league. So he's not in any sort of an issue. But I always like to think the teams that consistently contend for a championship have a combination of coach and quarterback. I've never really been sold on Tannehill. I love the comeback, if you will, his second lease on life in Tennessee. But at some point, y'all gonna start asking the same questions that Minnesota's people and Luke Braun and those guys are about Kirk Cousins. Like, okay, is this just better than average, but never gonna be really good enough? And come next year, there's gonna be a dude up in Wisconsin that might be free. And you know what I'm saying? So rumor has it that the last time a GOAT type guy came free, he said, "You keeping that dude?" And he ain't say it like that. He said something else. And really,
that was about Tannehill. I don't care what Brady says. That was about Tannehill.
Right. So what happens this time? If Aaron Rodgers is free and you guys have a chance to clear up is Tannehill right now to the point where you guys will go ahead and give up and say, no, we're going to get that other dude? Because we don't want that here in Jacksonville. We do not want Aaron Rodgers.
Right. Okay, so 2 things. One, if the Titans have a chance to get Aaron Rodgers, pick up the phone, baby. Like, period. It's over. Like, I like Ryan Tannehill, and I'm a Tannehill supporter. But here's the reality in the NFL. There are about 5 quarterbacks who are going to be good all the time, no matter what. There's about 5. Every other quarterback from 7 to the end of the list is dependent in large part around their supporting cast. I mean, even the elite guys are still dependent on their supporting cast a bit, but a guy like Tannehill, a guy like Cousins, a guy like Baker Mayfield, a guy like blanking on different names, like Dak Prescott even. Like I
think Dak's probably on the other
he's
side
on
of that
the
a little
cusp.
bit.
I think he's top tier too.
But I agree with you. They can be successful, but in order to get what we're talking about, they need all of those things around them to be really, really good.
Yeah, he's a trailer, not a truck. And I got to give a shout out to Bucky Brooks and Daniel Jeremiah. They do a segment called Truck or Trailer, and they talk about quarterbacks. A trailer or a truck is like Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady. Even when their team doesn't play well, they are going to pull those dudes. Rising tide lifts all boats. They're going to pull those dudes towards some modicum of success.
Uphill.
Yes, they're going to take them uphill. Even if it doesn't work, they're going to be a positive benefit. We have seen that if Ryan Tannehill is still a good quarterback, but like Kirk Cousins, like Dak, Dak really struggled when CD and Cooper were out. He really struggled in that game. And it just goes to show you that probably 80%, maybe 85%, maybe 90% of the quarterbacks in the NFL, if they don't have a really solid supporting cast around them, they're just going to look average or replaceable. And to me, that's the case with Ryan Tannehill. He's not an elite guy who's going to raise all boats around him. if he's got practice squad guys around him and practice squad running backs and a poor pass protecting offensive line, he's not going to play well. And that's not going to change. Now, the question comes down to, can you win a Super Bowl with Ryan Tannehill? My answer is yes, but it would require A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, Derrick Henry to be healthy and to play well. Tannehill is a point guard on a star stud in the All-Star game. You know, he's not LeBron. He's Rondo in the Celtics Big Four, not KG, Paul Pierce, or Ray Allen. He's Rondo. So he can look like an all-star. He can look like a monster, a Hall of Fame player when he's got good talent around him. But Rondo's never going to be the best player on your team. And we see, it was my suspicion already, but it's been proven that Tannehill can't lift up the team around him if he doesn't have a star-studded cast. But I think that's the case for 90% of the quarterbacks in the NFL. So I don't think it's necessarily a detriment to Ryan Tannehill, to say the truth.
All right, so we got it, man. There you go. The Locked On Jaguars and Locked On Titans crossover. You make us your first listen every day. Your second listen needs to be the Locked On Bets podcast hosted by your boy Q. And I always get ready to say my boy Q because he is my boy, but his name is your boy Q. And with analyst Lee Sterling, they give it to you straight from the muscle. All of the things that you might not know about these games, you find it out before you make your wager. So make sure you like and subscribe and follow the Locked On Bets podcast. Tyler's been real as always. And you know what? You ain't got to wait to May to talk to me, homie. We can talk any day. We text all the time. They accuse me on the group text of being like absentee. The thing is I have my text messages off. Now, this is a little behind the business here.
Yeah,
so y'all just bear with us, okay? Right. So I have my text messages off because I'm an insomniac. And as soon as I get to sleep, if that thing goes off, I'm going to go down to Gainesville or wherever and choke Brandon. So I'm trying to not have to hurt him. You know what I'm saying? Now, Zach's cool. And plus, he's different. And then me and you know, but that little boy going to make me hurt him if he keeps texting all night long and I'm asleep, and soon as the thing goes off. So that's why I have my text messages off. And he's always complaining. And you can, I hope they show him this. He's always complaining that he calls me a mean dude and I'm mean and all of this. And then he calls me OG the next minute. That's my buddy though, man. I'm just jiving with him.
We love our the young college dudes in the group chat. We're just elder statesmen, man. Nothing we can do about it. But man, it's good times, and we will get together for sure. Maybe right before the draft or something like that, just to chop it up, and maybe we could take a little path and just talk some general NFL sometime, as well, as we both are co-hosts on the Locked On NFL podcast during the week as well. But Tony, like you said, great conversation as always. I'm looking forward to this game. I really do think the Jags, if they turn over the Titans, have a chance to win it. But either way, we will watch the rest of the season unfold. That's going to do it for another crossover Thursday from the Locked On Podcast Network. Locked On Titans, Locked On Jags. Everybody, we'll catch you on Friday.